Now we're live, and welcome everybody to Voices of Terminus. This is Yarnila, and I'm here with Dal. Say hello, Dal.
Hello, everybody.
So we're going to be doing some streams about the development of Pantheon, and well, we're going to start off by talking about yesterday's stream. We finally got to see some actual footage from the game in its current state of development, pre-alpha. And Dan, what do you think about it?
Well, I thought it was pretty cool. Actually, I've been waiting for quite a while. Been kind of keeping an eye on Pantheon since April of last year. And what I was really impressed about is that their pre-alpha was a pretty stable platform.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I was actually fairly amazed of the amount of input they had already in this game. I mean, they had merchants, they had the inventory, the UI, they had monsters all over the place, and it was a pretty solid display yesterday.
Yeah, I'd say it was a very solid display yesterday. Definitely.
So what was your favourite part?
I have to say my favorite part was just the adventure. You know, you're going through, making your way. The environmentals where they had the effects where you want to go explore something, like the big towers or the ruins. It kind of drew you in, and then you make your way up through there. You have to stop, obviously. It wasn't like they weren't rushing through. You know, in other words, you couldn't just race through the game.
Well, that was intentional. Is what they said from the start. That basically this game is going back to the roots of how people got into the 3D dimension of MMOs back in the day with EverQuest. You know, EverQuest was it was hard. Yeah, if you look at the games nowadays, I mean, if you look at World of Warcraft, Terra, EverQuest 2, it doesn't matter, you know, they've all dumbed down in some point, and people rush through this stuff nowadays. I mean, you know, people can't survive without having a map or having, you know, bots added to the map showing them where they have to go and everything. And the core gamers, they want this old feel, you know, having to explore and find out stuff. I mean, I remember back in the day when EverQuest 2 came out and we started doing the quests for the runes for the dragon speech. You had to gather something like 50 runes, and nobody knew where they were. And we had to look. It took the community about 2 weeks to find all these runes together. And it was a fun thing to have with the community, you know, working together, and with these map systems and ingrades to the map systems, you know, the community starts dissing people as well. And you know, Pantheon, the way they showed it yesterday, it's huge. It's going to be huge.
Yeah, I like the fact that there's no exclamation points on the map, you know, or I should say actually the environment where it says, "Hey, come talk to me."
Yeah.
You know, I like that. You kind of wander. Yeah, so you're gonna be able to wander around and not be told this is the route you have to follow.
Yeah.
So you kind of make your own path. And I think that's what a lot of MMOs have a problem with, is because they're all theme parks now, where everybody flies through, beats the content, and then there's nothing left to do because their hand's been held all the way through it. Yeah. And I think the danger's missing in today's MMOs. And going back to this type of environment where it's very dangerous, roaming mobs, you know, it brings a sense of danger and adventure.
It certainly does. I mean,
and some challenge.
Oh, certainly. I mean, these guys, the team, they streamed for 2 hours roughly about yesterday, and they reached about one level from 7 to 8. You know, 2 hours, and it was intense. And the thing is, I hope they bring. I don't think they had corpses yesterday, But that was an aspect that I liked about EverQuest 2, having to go gather your corpse when
Oh yeah.
you were in an instance, or you was in a dungeon or whatever, or somewhere where there were heroic monsters, and the group, somebody didn't pay attention, and the whole group wiped. It was
Yeah.
people used to, when they had to gather corpses, or they got they got disqualified in some kind of way. They used to pay more attention to the characters.
Oh
And
yeah. I mean, that's like you just mentioned that. That's a perfect example too. Is like with today's MMOs, a lot of people don't put a more emphasis on their characters and their character development. They just want, like, I want a damaging DPS character who can do the most and the best one in the game, rather than actually investing time and learning how to play their class, what their role in a group is. And not to mention, in most of the MMOs today, too, is almost like you're soloing the content.
yeah,
There's no group play anymore.
yeah. I mean,
And speaking on what you said about the corpses, I think yesterday they were doing the quick zap us over there because they didn't want to drag out the stream with a 20-minute walk, so that's why we didn't see any corpse dragging.
I mean, it's like you said. People don't study their character, and they want to get to the max level as fast as they can. And if you want to go play a game like that, I hope they don't try and go on to mainstream and try and attract everybody. I hope they do stick to their word, where they say basically that they want the core players to be the players that actually want what they want.
Well, I think there is. I think there's a high demand for this type of game. I think especially some of the new players, some of the younger players. I like to say, safe to say, I could be a little bit wrong on this, but if you're under age 40, maybe 35, you have no idea what this type of MMO is.
Very well put.
Hmm.
Under 35,
They have no idea. Yep. So I think this is going to appeal to a lot of us who have kind of grown up and lived the EverQuest style MMO, and with the challenge
But
and the adventure.
let's look at this a different way, right? Now, we've been playing for years. We've learned, we've seen basically all sides of what MMOs have to offer at the moment.
We have.
But now let's take it now for the last, I'd say 10 years. No, yeah, 10 years roughly. For the last 10 years, we've been in this, we'll hold your hand and we'll give you everything and you don't have to do anything mentality. We've been given that for 10 years. Even players in the Middle Ages, 40, 35 and so, do you think that's still going to have a mixed impact? Because, we've been accustomed to the way MMOs are run nowadays, that a lot of people are going to, get frustrated because it's going to take that much longer and it's going to be that much more in depth. Do you think that might have a negative aspect though?
I don't think so. I've played, like, for example, I played Star Wars Galaxies. I played Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic. I played Age of Conan. And the thing I find very disturbing is that how fast you level, how fast you go through the content, and then the development team is racing to try to give you more content because you've blown through all the content that they had. So I think this is going to give a different aspect to maybe some of the younger players who've never played this type of game. And I think it's really important to explain to them before they buy this game, probably in big bold letters, this is a challenging game. This is going to be a game that you're going to have to earn your respect within the community. You're going to have to earn your place in the world, because when you look at EverQuest, it defined the social MMO beginnings, where everybody treated each other with respect, customs and courtesies. Even though people said, well, it's not real life, but a lot of people incorporated real life customs and courtesies in their gameplay. and you developed and built friendships too, especially when you did like camping outside, different boss mobs. You really got to bond with other players and learn about them, and you developed strong bonds, and you would always look for each other when you got online, and you always gravitated to those types of players who fit your lifestyle, your aspects, or I should say your desires for gameplay. They met your expectations, you met theirs, so you all worked together as a well-oiled machine.
Sure.
And that's a very important thing. And I think a lot of younger players in the younger generation don't have that same bond with other players in the community because those other MMOs don't create the environment where you can sit and socialize and learn about each other and build those relations.
Yeah, what I've seen with younger players as well. I mean, my brother-in-law is the younger generation. My brother himself is from the younger generation. And I've seen it time and time again with the younger folk nowadays. They tend to not, see it through. They tend to, I want to play World of Warcraft, or I want to play a bit of EverQuest, Final Fantasy, this, that, and the other, and they always tend to, they get bored real quick, and then you hear their arguments, it's too easy, and then you think about, well, if it's too easy, then why don't you try out this game? Try out something like EverQuest or EverQuest 2 or whatever that are still in the level of what Pantheon is, and then you hear them, with their stupid arguments. It's misleading, how they want a game to be, but they always jump from one game to the other. They don't see through to play like a month, 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. I mean, my brother-in-law, he changes games regularly, and I mean he's got a ton of MMOs, and some of them cost a lot of money. And it's amazing how these young people waste their money, more or less.
Well, I think a lot of it too is society's created the instant gratification. They want instant gratification, and if they don't get it from an MMO or a particular genre of MMO, then they move on, or they run out of the content. I mean, it's a hard line to define, and there are a lot of players, especially former EverQuest players, who are looking for this particular MMO. Who are looking for the grouping aspect where you have to group together to overcome the challenge.
Yep.
And you don't find that in a lot of MMOs. And of course they try to give you that simulation, but a lot of it's instanced for a group of 6. Or, a group of 24.
Yeah. Not to cut you off, but do we know if Pantheon's going to be a true open world? Basically what I'm saying is, apart from going from one continent to the other, can
no
we travel?
zones?
Yeah, no zone boundaries. Do you think we can travel from one end of the continent to the other end without having zone boundaries, or do you think that's something they're going to have to put in?
I believe it's going to have zones. I think. I'm not quite sure. I mean, they might still be working on that.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of things that they still probably working on, because they want to try to incorporate some modern ideas along with the old classic MMO.
Yeah. I mean, this, talking about modern ideas, we've got the atmosphere and climate system, which is a really interesting thing. I mean, this is something me and you have talked about for ages. If it's been, let's say Landmark or EverQuest or whatever, let's take Landmark as a good example. We've been asking for weather since day one. We wanted weather, and we don't want it to be like it is in typical MMOs. Like, let's take EverQuest 2 as an example. If you go into Nectarless Forest, it's dark, it's foggy, it rains. You come into the Common Lands, there's constantly sun, there's no rain. I would like to see if at any chance possible, it doesn't matter how they've designed the world itself, I would love an MMO to be there where it will rain, it will snow, it will be foggy, it will have, autumn, it will, a whole season, and have that also impact us. And the climate system and atmosphere system sounds like it's almost going to go in that direction.
It's possible. I don't know where they want to take it, but I like the idea of the atmosphere, the climate stuff. I think the atmosphere thing's kind of cool. It puts a different twist to the environment.
Yeah.
Not only are you trying to defeat your NPCs in the environment, but you're also having to deal with the atmosphere or the climate change.
And plus, they said as well that the atmosphere will also impact your spell abilities, make them weaker, stronger. It will impact your armor as well. And that's the thing what we've been waiting for. We've wanted a game where everything impacts us. Every decision we make has an impact on the game, be it a decision with the land itself or a certain zone. Because if you read through the lore and everything in most MMOs, it's nice having the lore there and reading it and everything, but you've never felt part of the story, that you're actually doing something. You actually, you're moving this story along. And that's another thing that I liked about, Terra Rising. Yes, it's a Korean grinder. Not a lot of people like it. There's a lot that speaks for it, a lot that doesn't. But what got me on that, for instance, was the cut sequences they put into that were mixed perfectly into the game. And, when a certain point of the game, you got to a certain point in the game, basically, a cut sequence came in and it told you the story, and you were part of that cut scene as well, with your character as it stood. And that made me feel like, I was actually moving this world and changing and making an impact. And that's the direction everybody needs to go now, with the climate system, atmosphere and stuff. Give us the feeling that it's not just running around in a world, go and slash 10 monsters, do it again another 20 times, go into the boss instance, kill the boss and you're done. We don't want that anymore. We want to be part of the lore.
Yeah, I think where this is going, you gotta think back to classic EverQuest with a new twist. I don't know how in depth they're gonna go as far as like cut scenes for lore stories or talking to NPCs. But like EverQuest, you had a lore book that occasionally would drop from a mob in the location you were fighting, so it kind of gave you a little bit of the backstory. And then, of course, you had to read the old text, when the NPC would speak to you.
Yeah.
And you had to hail them. And that's kind of nice, too, because you're having to wander around. Nobody's directing you and telling you, hey, go see this dude. You just stumble upon him.
But let's come back. Let's go a bit more into depth with this. Talking about the hailing system and text instead of speech. Now in the modern days, people as they look, when we look at games, we look at graphics, we look at initiative and depth towards a game, story driven and so forth. Now, yes, it's an MMO and we want to go back to the classic days and everything, but shouldn't certain modern day aspects be put into there to make it more real? So instead of having a NPC open up a journal, we have like an actual voice interaction with the NPC. Should that be something they should pursue, instead of having a journal to read through? You can read through it afterwards, yes, but in that moment of time when you actually engage the NPC, he speaks to you.
I mean, it's a cool idea. I don't see anything wrong with it. If they want to put that in and implement it, I don't see there would be a problem. Just don't put an exclamation mark over his head and say, hey, come speak to me.
Yeah, we do not want that. I mean, I
think that's what destroys it now.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind having that as a... Let's say, I used to hate in EverQuest 2. I mean, I only played EverQuest 1 every now and then. And, I mean, that was like 10 years later. I started off with EverQuest 2, and what I kind of missed, and then it got changed and everything, was I used to do every quest. Every beginning zone and everything in EverQuest, I did them all. And sometimes you tend to overlook things, and you've reached a certain level, you maxed out that level for it to be uninteresting. And I personally would like a kind of indication when I'm bigger, that I might have missed this guy here, that to them tell me then you've reached this level now, but there's still guys wanting to speak to you.
Well, I think what it should be, and the way it worked really good with EverQuest, was that, like Alakazam, I don't know if you've ever been there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alakazam was a place where the community could get together and say, hey, look, I found this dude, and he's here, but I don't know exactly what quest he's part of. So people would put information on it, and they would all communicate, hey, I found this guy. Wait, I found a piece that matches this guy. So you connect the dots. So it's part of the adventure and the learning process and the research. And I had more fun researching raids, learning about a mob, what I needed to bring, preparing spells, regents, getting the group ready to go adventure. And yeah, you might pass some of these guys up, but there's nothing saying you can't go back and see them to complete a quest.
Well, let's look at it a different way. If we compare the games, I mean, at the beginning of a game, I mean, we had a ton of quests out there. I mean, yeah, it was called EverQuest, obviously. That's a given. But every game from there on followed that unique way of going, banging thousands of quests so that they don't get bored. Should they maybe downsize the quests at the beginning and make the storytelling of the quest a bit longer for you to advance? Or should they, keep it as they do now?
Hold on one second. I got a problem here. Hold on. Go, hurry up. Okay. What was I going to say? Answer that. Say that again, please. Sorry, I had a distraction.
Yeah, I was talking about basically how at the beginning when you start off in a game, there's too many quests. It's overwhelming. You can't do you realistically you can't do them all. You're gonna have to pick and choose which way you want to go. But a lot of the old time gamers, they want to do everything. They want to achieve every quest and everything. So my suggestion or idea was basically, should they tone it down at the beginning when you start out and make the quests, the individual quests, a bit more intense, a bit more depth to it, and zone out the majority of quests in the beginning?
No, I think they should have quite a few different avenues to go on. Because it doesn't limit you to what you can do. Some quests should be in depth, like EverQuest 1, there was epic quests. And it might take you a few months to a year to complete it. You're going to need group, you're going to need raids to complete that quest. So there is a challenge with that. And if somebody wants to go back and do a quest, they can re-roll a character, or they can take that character and complete it. Maybe the item might not be great for that level, but they might be able to sell that item to somebody else, perhaps.
So we saw yesterday the they kind of got into the colored mana system, and that was quite an interesting experience yesterday.
I find the idea pretty cool. Like, if it affects certain areas you might be in or parts of the world, I think that's pretty cool. I like the fact that it might enhance your spell effect. You might have a problem with it in a certain area. So it's kind of interesting dynamic, and it does put a different twist to the game because it gives you something that you have to achieve.
Yeah.
You know, because I think what did they say? Maybe was it 12, 13 different gems, or was it a couple? I can't remember. But I like the aspect of it.
Yeah.
I think it might be a cool concept.
It's the same with the situational gear, what they were talking about, where they were stuck trying to get past that environmental disaster they had. When they talked about situational gear, I mean,
Oh yeah.
if we look at the, if we look back in the day to I mean, EverQuest 2, I can only basically comment on EverQuest 2. The original concept of EverQuest 2 was you had a Shadow Knight, you had a Paladin, you had a Bruiser and whatnot as your tanks. And when you went into a instance or into a raid, in the very early stages of that game, it was actually designed for you to have, you had to have all tank classes with you in the raid, because the first monster encounter, he might be resistance to arcane magic or weak to it, and the other monster would be, weak towards poisons. So you would have to switch your main tank, and they went away from that. And I thought, well, that's just silly. Why destroy a system like that? It makes absolute sense having to, assess the situation, rethink, regroup, and choose, your tank, your healer, your damage, your group correctly.
Yeah, I mean, EverQuest 1 was like that. Like I said, you had to prepare regents, spells, buffs, and the thing was, you had to learn what that boss monster or NPC was going to do to you. And you had to adapt to the situation and figure out a strategy to overcome them. And that made it more interesting, too. It wasn't just a quick pushover, hey, we got the guy. You actually had to learn a little bit about your enemy. So I think they're going to keep that with this game, I believe.
Yeah.
What it sounds like. And not to mention when you were saying the situational weapons and armor, too. Classic D&D. A piercing weapon wasn't good against bone.
Exactly.
A nice big-sized baseball bat or smashing mace would be brutal for a skeleton. But a piercing weapon? So I like that idea too, because you got to adjust your situation, your combat awareness. So it keeps things interesting.
It certainly does. Certainly does. I'm just looking through. I'm on their website while we're talking here, and I'm just looking through some things, what they have. The progny system, where players will be able to retire high-level characters and then create their children as new characters. These new characters, the progny, will have certain abilities, stats, etc. that make them slightly yet noticeable, better than a completely brand new character, but not to the point where it becomes unbalanced. Now that's a very interesting thought to, we've all retired high-level characters, and what have we gone and done? We've gone and created an alt because we want to play something different. Now with the progny system, I think that this is something brand spanking new, and it's going to be a very interesting thing to watch as it develops, because you're going to want to max out your character. You're going to then you're going to retire him and see what this progny is going to be. How do you think that's going to work?
It'll be interesting to see. I don't know how they're going to go with it, but like a good example would be like Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Online, is they kind of did something similar where you have a character, and that character you create new, part of the bloodline or the family line, inherits one or two of the abilities of the other class. So it was interesting how they were going with it. I don't know how they're going to do it with this one.
Yeah.
but it's a cool idea.
It was certainly cool to see what they were doing yesterday, though. I mean, it's a very stable system they seem to have running there. And they've done a fantastic job with the Unity engine, and I like the night shot when they showed off the night time. I mean, it's going to be dark. You know, we're going to have to get our torches and look what's going on behind us, to the left of us, to the right of us, and the lighting system as well. It actually impressed me yesterday. You know, looking at the graphics, yes, the graphics are very basic still, and they did say
pre-alpha.
and they did say that this is basically just placeholdings and stuff. I mean, we've seen some video footage where it looks a lot more lively and to date, because people will be expecting modern, state-of-the-art graphics.
Mm-hmm.
And the lighting system impressed me really well. I mean, that's it's looking good right now.
Yeah, they got a lot of cool stuff going on, and I think my biggest thing I took away from the whole thing yesterday was the fact that there's group play. The platform that they have right now is really stable. I didn't see any falling apart and crashing to the desktop type of thing that a lot of people are probably associating with Pantheon. Say, hey, it's because there's some negative people out there, saying, look, it's Brad McQuaid, they failed Vanguard, etc., etc. But I think the team has really shown that, hey, we have a stable product here. Allow us to develop it at our pace. It will go well.
Yeah.
They're obviously polishing and tweaking to make sure the mechanics are working. I believe that's the right way to go too, as Brad stated, that get the mechanics working, then do the visuals to get your immersion.
Yeah, that's the thing. What a lot of it seems that a lot of companies out there, when they develop games, they tend to spend more time with the graphical aspects of the game, and they start to drift away from what they were actually trying to achieve with this game, as into playability. And that's what I picked up yesterday. What was really positive for me was the fact that they said, yes, look, the graphics are still yuck, and the characters are still yuck, but we're concentrating. We've basically built the basics. We've put down everything we need for it to be alive, so you can see what's going on, and we are focusing on the playability itself, the game itself, making it being fun and everything, and we will at a later point adapt the graphics as needed. And I think that's the right way to go. A lot of companies seem to do it the other way, and it tends to fall apart. Well, I mean, if you look at EverQuest Next, it died because of that reason as well. It fell apart because they were wasting too much time on stuff they should have looked at further down the road. They should have got the game, or they should have got a game to a certain point where it can be, where people can view it, see it, what's going on, see the characters move, this and that, see them do quests, and then adapt their systems to it.
Yeah, well, most of the MMOs today are theme parks, so it's all visually appealing, super exaggerated characters and armor, which, some players like that, some don't. I mean, some like more realistic, immersion.
Let's come to that now, right? Your choice, right? What would you prefer? Do you prefer the game to be, let's say, more realistic looking, as in the Witcher or Black Desert Online, or would you rather see the game in, let's go for the middle class now, a mix between Landmark and Terra, and then we'll go to the very chaotic system, which a lot of people don't like, the World of Warcraft style? What's your
Graphically,
if you had a choice graphically, what would it be? Would it be realistic? Would it be in between, or would it be straight out comic?
no, I always wanted the fantasy to be more visually kind of a dark, scary, threatening world.
Mm.
So more realism, not the cartoony rainbow Care Bears type environment
Yeah.
or very colorfulistic, characters. I mean, the spell effects definitely, because that gives you your immersion, like, you're whipping up some really awesome, powerful spell. But cartoony, no, I'm not in this anime cartoony type world.
Mm.
I think Pantheon would benefit from a more darker, sinister background, because something terrible has happened. And you have to fight through this sinister, dark world where things have gone kind of astray.
Yeah.
And I think if you do it that way, you're going to attract more people to play because of the danger.
Mm.
It'll actually be more immersive. Because with the fantasy, cartoony, bright characters, they've discovered that colorful stuff like that is more towards children or younger aged adults that'll be attracted to color. I think as you get older, color's no longer super great. It's more of the immersion in the story and the more adult orientated, nitty gritty life.
Yeah. Well,
perhaps.
Getting to the word adult. Do you think there's going to be an age restriction on being able to play Pantheon?
I don't know. I don't know what their plans are, whether they're trying to hit another market or they're, I believe they're trying to target the original EverQuest market, with grouping, socialization. But I think also the more realistic, darker graphics, immersiveness would even make it more cemented, so to speak. I think that was one of the biggest demands too that a lot of EverQuest players demanded back at some of the old SOE fanfares was they wanted to see the next EverQuest to be more darker world, not so bright and cheery.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. I mean, they might have a plan, they might not. I don't know. They're probably still up in the air.
Right, so let's go and put up the website, and let's scroll down to the classes. Oh, actually, we'll start with the races. We'll start with the races here. So we have the Achai race here, and we have the dwarves, the dark mirror, the ogres, obviously the humans as well, the halflings, elves, gnomes, and the scar. So what's your viewpoint on the races down?
Oh, that's pretty interesting. Definitely.
Do you have a favourite? Something you're leaning towards?
I'm gonna go with the was it the Dark Mirror?
The underwater.
I find the water people.
Yes.
Yep, I find them interesting.
It's their choice for a gnome is actually very interesting. When you see this picture, you see this gnome. It's when we talk about gnomes, we're talking about little fat people running around with big beards and hairy feet and stuff like that. And then you look at the vision that the team have brought up here in Pantheon. It looks really interesting.
Oh yeah. I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Different twist.
So we'll carry on down to the classes as well, and it looks like they've adopted a similar system that we have had for ages in EverQuest and EverQuest 2. It seems like we have two tank classes, the Crusader and Warrior. We have 3 heal classes, the Cleric, Druid and Shaman, I would presume. Then we have the Scouts, the Ranger, the Rogue and the Monk. And let me see what the Dire Lord was. And that seems to be the magical classes. So we have the Enchanter, Wizard and the Dire Lord and Summoner. So it's an interesting choice of classes. Any class you think is missing?
No, but I'm sure there's some folks who'd like to see like Necromancer, or Warlock type, class.
Yeah.
So I think they said something about a Necromancer or something like that later on.
Yeah.
But I think these are going to be the starting classes here.
But it seems we're going to have like 12 classes at the beginning, which is it's a good number.
Oh yeah, it's definitely it's good variety of choice.
I mean, we started off with in EverQuest 2 with 12, I think, as well, and it's worked out ever since.
And there's always room for expansions to bring another class in.
Exactly.
To obviously create more stuff, give players that opportunity. Might go back and hit that missed quest you were talking about.
Yeah.
So a lot of cool stuff coming, I think. And I like the idea that they're trying to bring back some of those old elements that the classic EverQuest, kind of set.
Yeah. So let's go and have a look at this world for a minute. Try and bring it up. So, let me go and scroll around. Scroll out a bit. So if we look at this first continent, Rainfall. I mean, this game's going to be huge. It's going to be really, really big. I mean, what we saw yesterday, they were running through.
I think Thronefast, Evander's Seat, or something like that, or Evander's Pass.
Evander's Pass. I mean, that was massive. I mean, it was most probably somewhere between here, I would say. They were running through. Or actually, was that Ruland Port we saw yesterday? We do not know. But anyway, when they came up, when they showed it, basically he was running towards a group again before he got summoned. He was pointing out where they roughly are, and it seems to be a very large zone.
Yeah.
It's going to be a very large game.
Sure did. Look quite large, actually.
So we have Sarin's Gaze, which looks kind of interesting. I expect sirens or something like that around there. Sirenai's Rest. Looks like something underwaterly, if you look on the map here. The Broken Moor. The Kaga Sands and the Whispering Lands. Then we have Wonders Lost. That looks really interesting. What that's going to be. Valley of the Watchmen. Burning Sanctum. The Dead Vault. And Skargol on Rainfall's continent. And let's go over to King's Reach. And let me scroll out a bit. So let's have a look at it as a whole. So that's King's Reach here on the right side. New to that was Wild's End. That was the last expansion towards this map, correct? So we have Tower of the Reckless Magician, Ruland Port. Then we have here the Silent Plains, which also looks interesting. Steps of Ruland, so that's part of Ruland Port, I presume. Vial of Azeris, Avendir's Pass, the Silent Sanctum. Thronefast is the starting city for the humans, I think was what they were saying yesterday. Then the Fey Wood, Fethal, and the Seven Locked Door. And last of all is Wild's End. So it's, they've got a lot planned out already. I mean, if we look at some of the other games out there weren't a lot that they put into the original release of their games. And they've got a lot planned out already.
Yeah, they've obviously done a lot for the lore and stuff like that too, so
Yeah.
that's cool.
And I presume that this, the top part where the ice is, I think at one point there might be a further continent or so.
Something to explore later.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Western Waste or Eastern Waste in EverQuest, and Icewell Keep.
Yep.
Stuff like that.
So if you're interested, anybody out there in the lore, go to their website, pantheonmmo.com, and you can read the lore, history of Terminus, age of seclusion, age of chaos, the Feral Age, is which the current state of the game is in, and then the keeping of things. And you can have a read through there, get a broad impact into how the lore is going to be laid out, and you know, support these guys, people. You know.
Yeah, give a pledge.
Yep, go pledge, guys.
Yeah,
So
pledge.
let's go and have a look at these pledges anyway. Let's go in there, talk people through, because it can be quite confusing. So let's go to the pledge site and go on to the pledges. So they have supporter pledges, which I'm going to go and click on right now, which is a Knight's pledge and your Patron's pledge. Those are the minimum pledges you're going to need, especially if you want to get into the alpha access of the game, which they are offering. And it costs you $100 for the Knight's pledge, which gives you unlimited support access, alpha access, beta access, early name reservation, 2 digital copies of the game, which is also a very, very nice thing they've done. You don't get 1 copy of the game, you get 2.
Yeah, so you can give it to a friend or something.
Give it to a friend, or to your girlfriend, or to your husband. And, you know, you both can play from day one. And if you think about it, $100 plus with the game title Pantheon Explorer, game item, Fun Illusion, additional character slot, game item Explorer's Backpack, game item Tunic of the Plains, game item Astral Guide Vanity Pet. So if you think about it, let's say the average game costs about $40. So you get 2 copies of the game, which is $80 worth of money. So you're basically you're paying $20 or whatever to get into this game as soon as possible, as early as possible into alpha. The next pledge would be the Patron's pledge, which has the addition of 5 item renaming vouchers. Would you mind to speculate on that, Dal? What do you think that would be?
What's that?
The 5 item renaming vouchers.
Well, obviously it sounds like you can rename maybe weapons, perhaps, or armor, perhaps.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting.
Certainly
I wonder what that is exactly.
Alright, so we're going to take a look at the champion pledges now. So we have champion pledges, Pathfinder's pledge, Advisor's pledge, and Cohort's pledge. They start at $250, which gives you unlimited champion access, which has everything of the above, which I'm not going to read off again. It adds your name appears in the credits. By the Pathfinder's pledge, you get the 5 renaming vouchers and 3 months game subscription. So let's say the game costs $10 a month, so that's $30 plus 2 copies of the game, $80. So you're looking at $110 is what you're getting for free, and you've got to pay the additional on top of that. It's worth its money. They've definitely really given this a lot of thought. Then you have the Advisor's Pledge, which has the addition of invite to Founders Guild. So that's obviously a exclusive guild from Visionary Realms themselves. And with the Cohort's Pledge, the $500 version, you get digital lore and art book, very nice. In-game cohort nameplate, sounds very interesting. A physical item, the Celestious cloth map, and postcard from the team on top of that. Very interesting stuff. So, and now we're going to go into the VIP pledges, which Dalinsia is eyeing. So we have the Ultimate Pantheon Access Plus Legendary VIP Pledges benefits, and they start at $1,000 up to $10,000, and they can either be paid in one foul swoop, or $100 a month for 1 year, or $300 for 1 year, or $1,000 for 1 year. Gives you also unlimited VIP access, everything of the above again. But you get, for the Originator's Pledge, instead of 3 months game subscription, you get 6 months out of it. You get also invited to the Founders Guild, the Lore Book and Art Book. You get the in-game Originator nameplate. And what's interesting is the pre-alpha tester access. So if you want to, if you're eager and you're interested, really interested, you can actually get into their testing phase pre-alpha and test out the game. You get your name in the tester credits and tester forum tag as well. And for the Editions pledge, you get limited edition frame print. Now that sounds really interesting.
Oh.
What that would be, a limited framed print. And for the Ascendance pledge, which Dalinsia would love to do, you would get to design a dungeon or raid with the design team.
That would be cool. Now
that is something really cool. Being able to design a dungeon or raid with the design team. Now, if I had the choice, I think if I had that pledge, I don't know, what would you design? Would you design a dungeon or a raid?
I think I'd like to do a dungeon. Maybe with a raid.
You can't do both. You have to choose.
Darn. Well, I think I'd go with the design of the dungeon. I think that'd be more fun.
Yep, and they offer other pledges. Obviously, sky's the limit. If you want to invest $20,000 or whatever, you can do that. You just got to contact them personally then and sort that out directly. And to clarify, you can always upgrade your pledges. So if you say now you've gone in and you've done the Knight's pledge for $100, and 2 weeks into alpha you realize, hey, I want more, you can upgrade. You can't downgrade, but you can upgrade. So,
which is cool.
Pledge, guys, pledge.
Yes, please pledge. I think this game's going to be great.
It certainly does look like it's going to be groundbreaking, but that's what we expect from Brad McQuaid. In all honesty, I mean he's we can call him the founder of the 3D MMOs back in the day, EverQuest. Vanguard, he took that to the next level, and a lot of people were upset when it got cancelled. And now they're going with Pantheon. So anything else you want to add or say to anybody out there?
No, I think that's about it for tonight's stream, I think.
Well, we can show off our new video.
Yeah, I can do that real quick.
Yeah, so we're gonna
go
and show you our video that we've created. We'll be uploading this onto YouTube and letting you guys know when it's available. Also, Voices of Terminus, our first show here today, will be also uploaded onto YouTube. We hope you enjoyed yourselves in this open discussion of speculation on how Pantheon is going to be, can be, and whatnot. And definitely join us next time. So we're going to go get this video started for you guys.
upload down a video.
Yeah. So what's any closing statement you want to give?
The only thing I can say is hopefully you guys go out there and pledge to Pantheon. Watch the Pantheon Twitch stream they did yesterday and enjoy the mechanics of the game, enjoy how they worked through it, and they showed you how it's an actual working product. These guys put their heart and soul into it, it looks like. They want it to be very stable, and they're not messing around. I think they seriously have something really great coming out. And if you just pledge to help these guys, push it along, it'd be good for them. And it'd be good for you to find another MMO that's going to bring some classic MMO feel back to you. Or to those of you who've never had it, this is your opportunity to try to enjoy some of what us older folks enjoyed when it first started out. So, and it'll give you a sense of identity and a little bit of what the community's like. So, give it a shot.
Well, that said,
Pledge.
guys, we will see you next time. We do not know when next time will be. We're just starting out with this, so we hope you guys enjoyed yourself, were entertained a bit, and do leave us feedback.
Yes, give us some feedback, and hopefully we'll get some followers going here, and you guys can ask some questions in chat or engage.
Yep.
And hopefully eventually maybe we'll get some devs up here and do some answers, questions type deals.
Yep.
So we'll see.
Alright, guys.
But let's help support Pantheon.
Yep. Pledge today. Take care, guys.
Yep, take care.